I never thought a 9-year-old girl would change the way I saw the world. I never thought a child's voice would shake something inside me that years of violence never touched. But that day in Bayfront Park in Sarasota, when the sun was setting and the air smelled like salt and wet grass, a little girl carrying an envelope did exactly that. I was sitting on an iron bench, trying to pretend I was just another man enjoying the evening. No guards, no business calls, no deals. Just me, the breeze and the quiet. For a few minutes each month, I tried to forget the name people whispered with fear. Gino Falcone, the man nobody approached unless they wanted something dangerous. Then I saw her. She stood at the edge of the walkway, small and thin, wearing a faded dress that had been washed too many times. She clutched something close to her chest. Her shoes scraped against the concrete as she forced herself forward. Kids usually avoided me. Even adults kept their distance without knowing why. But this girl walked straight toward my bench like she was on a mission someone twice her size would have run from. When she stopped 3 feet from me, I noticed the bruise under her hairline. It looked old, but not old enough to forget. She lifted her chin like she had practiced being brave in the mirror before coming here. "Excuse me, sir. Are you Mr. Falcone?" Her voice did something strange to my chest. People usually said my name with fear or respect, sometimes both. She said it like she was asking for directions. I almost denied it, almost told her she had the wrong man. But something in her eyes held me still. "Why do you want to know?" I asked, keeping my voice low so no one else would hear. She stepped closer and held out the envelope with both hands. Her fingers trembled even though her voice didn't. "I need help, sir, and I can pay." I thought she was joking. A child offering money to a man like me. But she wasn't joking. Her serious eyes didn't leave mine. She believed this moment mattered. She believed she had one chance. I opened the envelope, expecting a letter asking for a donation or maybe some school project. Instead, I found $5 and a note written in a slow, careful hand. "Please make my uncle go away. He hurts my mom and my sister. He says if we tell anyone, he will take us away from her forever. I have faced men with guns pointed at my chest. I've survived ambushes, betrayals, and wars people don't read about in newspapers. But that note hit harder than any bullet." I looked at her. She didn't blink. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just waited. "Where did you get this money?" I asked. "Lunch money," she said. "I saved it." I cleared my throat, trying to steady my voice. "How did you find me?" She swallowed hard. "My uncle said everyone is scared of you. Even the police. So I thought maybe he would be scared too." There was logic in her answer. Hard logic. The kind people learn when childhood ends too early. "Your mother doesn't know you're here," I said. She shook her head. "She sleeps a lot because of her medicine. And my sister is too little." A jogger passed nearby. I glared in his direction, enough to make him speed up. When I turned back, the girl was still there. Still steady. Still brave. "What's your name?" I asked. "Annie." "And what exactly do you want me to do, Annie?" "Make him go away," she said. "Not forever. Just not near us. Please." The word "please" cracked something inside me I didn't know was still alive. I handed her back the $5, closing her small fingers around it. "Keep it. You already paid enough." Her eyebrows pulled together. "So, you won't help?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and looked her in the eyes. "Some things don't cost money, Annie." She stared at me, searching my face for a lie. She didn't find one. "Will you help us?" she whispered. I nodded once. A single nod. But with it, a promise heavier than anything I'd ever made. "Where do you live?" I asked. She wrote the address on the back of my business card with shaking hands. Then she spoke her uncle's name. Warren Brooks. Even the sound of it disgusted me. When she finished, I tucked the card inside my jacket. "Go home," I told her. "Act normal. Tell no one you met me." She nodded. She understood. She turned and walked down the path, her small backpack bouncing with each step. I watched her until she disappeared around the corner. Only then did I pull out my phone. "Hello," I said when the line connected. "I need information. Name, Warren Brooks." Immediate priority. The sun dropped lower behind the water. Families headed home. The world kept moving. But I knew one thing. This was no longer business. This was personal. I didn't sleep that night. Men like me don't lose sleep over enemies or danger. But something about that note written in a child's shaky handwriting kept replaying in my mind. $5. A bruise. A little voice asking for help like it was her last chance. I had seen grown men break easier than that girl stood on her feet. By morning, Paolo had gathered everything I needed. Files, photos, reports. I sat in my office overlooking Sarasota Bay, the light bouncing off the water as I opened the folder with Warren Brooks' name printed across the top. 3 past domestic disturbance calls. No charges. Police found nothing. The usual story when the victim is too scared or too sick to fight back. A gambling problem. Debt to people who were amateurs compared to me. A pattern of leaving bruises just small enough to hide, but deep enough to remind a woman who held the power. It didn't take me long to understand the truth. Warren wasn't a man. He was a coward who preyed on the weak because he knew no one stronger cared enough to stop him. Until now. Options? I asked. My men looked at each other. They had done this dance with me before. They understood what was at stake and how delicate this situation had to be. Frank presented the choices cleanly. Disappearance, relocation, or a staged accident. He kept his voice neutral, waiting for my decision. But violence isn't always the best solution. Not when a child is involved. Not when a mother is already drowning under illness and fear. No robbery. No scene, I said. This ends quiet. The girl doesn't need more nightmares. Bobby adjusted his glasses. He's meeting his bookie tomorrow night. He owes $15,000. Quote, a perfect opportunity. Buy the debt, I ordered. Then give him a chance to fix it. A job, one-night delivery. No questions asked. Cruz would handle it from there. Cruz was clean, efficient, and silent. When Warren walked into that warehouse, it would be the last mistake he ever made. No mess, no body, no trail. Just a man people assumed ran from his own bad decisions. A story everyone would easily believe. By midnight the following day, the message came through. Delivery completed. 3 words. Cold. Final. Perfectly quiet. But even after the job was done and the threat removed, I couldn't let it go. Not the note. Not the bruise. Not the way Annie's small voice had carried more strength than grown men who begged for their lives. I picked up my phone again. Get me everything on her mother, I told Paolo. Medical files, treatment options, all of it. Her name was Catherine Brooks, 34, multiple sclerosis, a severe case. Medication denied by insurance. Symptoms worsening fast, her husband gone. Her brother-in-law controlling the home. Her daughters living under fear. No one was coming to save them, except me. Within a week, everything began changing for Catherine. Quietly, carefully, no fingerprints, no suspicions. The new medication she needed arrived. A letter came from a research program offering full coverage for 5 years. Transportation included. Their apartment locks were replaced. A better unit opened up for renovations. Rent lowered. No one questioned it. Why would they? Good things sometimes happen to people who need them most. For the first time in years, Catherine woke up without pain, clouding her every thought. Her daughters felt safe. Annie especially. I made sure of it. Sometimes, late at night when the city fell quiet, I imagined her looking out her window, wondering how everything changed so fast. Maybe even wondering if the man she approached in the park had anything to do with it. And she'd be right. 2 months passed before I saw her again. A sunny afternoon. She was walking home from school. Backpack bouncing behind her, hair pulled into a neat braid. She looked older, stronger, happier. I pulled my car beside the curb and lowered the window. May I speak with you? I asked. She froze for a moment. Not in fear, just in surprise. Then she stepped closer. Your mother is doing better, I said. She nodded, a small smile pulling at her lips. The doctors say she might even work again soon. Good. Hope was returning to that home like sunlight finally pushing through heavy clouds. There's a scholarship fund at your school, I said. Your mother should hear about it this week. She looked up at me, eyes sharp and too wise for her age. "Why are you helping us?" Her question wasn't soft or timid. It was real, direct, brave. I looked out at the road ahead, then back at her. "Because you paid me," I said. She frowned at first, confused. But then I saw understanding settle into her expression, the kind that goes deeper than words. "You paid me with courage most adults don't have," I added, "and with trust. That's worth more than money." Her shoulders eased, her eyes softened. "Thank you." Those two words hit harder than the first note she ever handed me. No one owes me gratitude in my world. Not ever. But hearing it from her, pure and honest, felt like something I didn't deserve, but still needed more than I realized. "Go home," I told her gently. "Your mother will be waiting." She nodded, and as she walked away, I felt something unusual settle in my chest. Not guilt, not power, something closer to responsibility. And I knew one thing for certain: this wasn't over. For her, I wasn't just a name people feared. I was someone she believed in. Months passed, and the changes in Annie's family were impossible to miss. Her mother grew stronger each week. Her little sister laughed more. Their new apartment felt alive instead of silent and afraid. Everything about their world looked different now. Safer, brighter, almost normal. And though they didn't know it, every bit of that stability had been built quietly in the background by me. I watched from a distance, always careful, never close enough to be seen unless I chose to be. My men stayed alert but invisible. No one bothered them. No one would ever bother them again. But Annie, she saw more than most people did. Even at 10, she noticed shadows others ignored. Some days, I caught her looking across the schoolyard like she felt someone watching out for her. Not in fear, in recognition. Like she understood the world wasn't as unprotected as it once was. Her mother, Catherine, kept improving. The new medication changed everything. She could stand longer, cook meals again, even walk to the park with her daughters. Her smile showed up more often. Real smiles. Not the forced ones people use to hide pain. For the first time since I had met Annie, I felt something rare in my line of work. Pride. Not in myself, but in them. In the way they rebuilt their life from broken pieces. One warm spring afternoon, I found myself parked outside Annie's school again. I had no real reason to be there except habit. Except the quiet pull that made me check on them now and then. The bell rang, and children spilled out onto the sidewalk. When Annie stepped outside, hair shining in the sunlight, backpack hanging low, I knew she saw the car before she turned her head. This time, I opened the rear door. She hesitated only a moment before slipping inside. She sat with her hands folded over her backpack, calm, collected, older in spirit than a child should ever be. "Your mother's latest report looks good," I told her. "Her doctors are pleased." She nodded. "She's talking about going back to school to finish her nursing degree." That touched something in me. Her mother was climbing back toward a future she thought she'd lost. And Annie was beginning to dream again, too. "That's good," I said. "Education is a door many people never get the chance to open." Annie looked out the window. A lot of doors opened for us this year. There it was. The unspoken truth. She wasn't a child who believed in coincidences anymore. I didn't deny anything. I didn't confirm it either. We existed in a strange balance. She knew I had changed her life. I knew she understood. That was enough. After a moment, I shifted the conversation. "There's a house available near your school. 3 bedrooms. Safe neighborhood. Your mother might want to look into it." Quote, her eyes turned from the window to me. "Will we be okay there?" "You'll be better than okay," I said. She studied my face with the same seriousness she'd shown the day we met in the park. "Why do you still help us?" Her voice wasn't scared. It wasn't accusing. It was curious in a way that made me consider the answer more deeply than I expected. I could have given her a simple lie. I could have shrugged it off. But Annie was the one person who made honesty feel natural. "Because watching your family heal reminds me that some things can be fixed," I said. "Not everything in life is broken forever." She stared at me in silence. I knew she didn't fully understand yet. She would someday. "Will you stop watching us now that everything is better?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "But one day, yes, when you no longer need someone in the shadows, making sure the world stays gentle." She accepted that answer with a small nod. Weeks later, her mother applied to a nursing program and got in with a scholarship. The rental house fell into their laps the way good things sometimes do for families who never had them before. Christmas brought real joy for them. A tree, gifts, decorations, things they hadn't dared hope for. Annie's little sister asked about Uncle Warren once. Catherine gave a simple answer: "I'm grateful for our life now." That was enough. By spring, Catherine stood straighter and smiled brighter than ever before. She started work at the hospital. Her confidence grew with each passing day. Their home filled with laughter. The sound even reached something inside me, far away, like hearing a memory I had forgotten. Then in March, an envelope arrived at their house, addressed to Annie. A scholarship invitation for a special private school program. High-level classes. Better opportunities. A future brighter than the streets she grew up on. When she got her acceptance letter, her mother cried tears that weren't from pain. That night, I drove past their new house. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to. Because something tied me to them in a way I couldn't explain. And like she somehow sensed it, Annie stepped outside and walked to my car when I opened the door. "Congratulations," I told her. "You earned it." She sat beside me, confident now, brave in a new way. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. You did the work." "I only removed what stood in your way." She looked at me with a softness that made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. "Will I still see you?" she asked. "Less often," I said honestly, "but I'll be watching your progress." She nodded, accepting it. Before she stepped out of the car, I handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a silver bracelet with a tiny key charm. "A key?" she asked. "A reminder," I said. "Your future is yours now. No one will lock you in again." Her fingers closed around the charm like it meant more to her than she could say. And in that moment I realized something terrifying and beautiful, somewhere between a $5 note and a desperate plea. That little girl had become the closest thing to family I had left. By the time Annie turned 10, her world looked nothing like the one she had tried to escape a year earlier. Her mother walked with confidence again. Her little sister colored pictures that covered the fridge instead of hiding in fear. Their home was warm, safe, and full of life. And Annie, she had grown into someone I knew would become unstoppable. Still, I kept my distance. I watched quietly. I made sure nothing dark found its way back into their lives. My car started appearing less often on their street. My men stayed farther away. I wanted them to stand on their own. I wanted Annie to grow without feeling the weight of my shadow every day. But some moments, I couldn't stay away. One warm evening, in early summer, I drove past their new house again. Families were grilling on their porches. Kids rode bikes along the sidewalk. Catherine sat in a lawn chair, smiling as she watched her daughters chase each other around the yard. The sound of their laughter reached me even through the closed window of my car. I stopped a little farther down the street. Part of me felt like an outsider, looking in on a life that was never meant for someone like me, a life with light instead of shadows, stability instead of power, home instead of fear. I didn't approach, I didn't need to. Just seeing them safe was enough. A week later, I received a small envelope at my office. No return address. No note inside except a single line written in neat handwriting. "Thank you for the doors you opened." There was no signature. She didn't need one. I would have recognized Annie's writing anywhere. That evening, when the sun dipped low over Sarasota Bay, I found myself sitting on the same iron bench where she had first approached me. A strange feeling settled over me. Something I didn't have a name for. Responsibility, pride, maybe even something close to hope. My men stayed back, giving me space. I sat there as the sky turned gold, remembering the little girl who had stood in front of me with $5 and more courage than most adults I had ever met. I didn't expect to see her again so soon, but footsteps approached from behind, light and familiar. I turned and found Annie standing near the bench, wearing her school uniform and the silver bracelet I had given her. The tiny key charm glinted in the sun. She wasn't scared. She wasn't uncertain. She looked like someone who had found her strength and kept it close. "May I sit?" she asked. I nodded, and she took her place beside me, legs barely reaching the ground. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the water shift with the breeze. "My mom says I'm going to start my new school next month," she told me. "She says it will be hard, harder than the school I'm in now." "It will be," I said honestly. "But you'll handle it." She looked at me with those steady eyes that had stopped me in my tracks the first day we met. "I'm not scared." "I know," I said. "You never were." She held the charm between her fingers. "My mom said this bracelet is a sign I should keep working, keep moving forward." She's right. Annie looked down at the water again. "Will I ever see you again? After school starts?" Her question settled like a weight between us. There was truth I owed her, even if she was only 10. "Yes," I said, "but not as often. You don't need me the same way anymore." She nodded, accepting that with the maturity of someone far older. "I won't forget you," she said quietly. "I know you won't." Her small fingers curled around the charm again. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you helped us, when you did all that, did it make you feel better?" she asked, not accusing, not questioning my motives. Just trying to understand the world in her own thoughtful way. I took a long breath. "It made me remember something important," I said. "That power doesn't only destroy, it can protect, it can build, it can save, if you choose to use it that way." She absorbed that slowly, like she was storing it for years to come. Then she said something I would never forget. "You protected us, and now I'm going to grow up and help people too, like you did." Those simple words hit deeper than she knew. I had built an empire on fear, on control, on silence. But somehow, without asking for anything, this child had taken the best part of me and turned it into something cleaner, something worth leaving behind. As the sky darkened and streetlights flickered on, Annie stood from the bench. "I should go home. My mom will be wondering where I am." I stood with her. "Walk safe." She nodded, then hesitated. "Mr. Falcone?" "Yes?" "Thank you for being the kind of person I could come to." She didn't wait for my response. She just smiled softly and walked down the path, her small silhouette growing smaller as the evening swallowed her steps. I watched her the entire way until she turned the corner. My chest felt tight in a way I wasn't used to. Not fear, not sorrow, something new. Maybe this was what redemption felt like. From $5 in an envelope, a desperate plea in a shaky hand, and a child brave enough to approach the most feared man in the city, something unexpected had taken root inside me. Something I didn't know I could feel anymore. A reason to change. A reason to become more than the man the world believed me to be. A reason that came in the shape of a little girl who believed in monsters and still trusted one to save her.